Good morning. Welcome to the Shelbyville Now Weekend Wrap Up. I'm David Thomas. This is Mr. Josh Blevins. We are coming to you live. It is September the 7th, 2024. And Josh, you got a few things you need to talk to us about and give us some reports on this
We've
morning.
had a few things happen this week. Not as busy a week as normal. Short week with Labor Day to start the week.
Yeah.
But things still moving as always here in town and in the county. So we'll
Yeah.
cover any of it that we think might be important to people out there that they might have missed.
All right.
So,
Well, let's hear a word from our sponsor, Dennis Young Insurance, and we'll be back to jump in.
yeah.
With the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
We want to thank Dennis Young Insurance for being our sponsor here on the Weekend Wrap Up. And again, we thank all our sponsors here at Shelbyville Now. And Josh, you've been out. It's kind of like a letdown this week. After the horse show, you had a day off on Monday.
Yeah,
and it's like this every year. But I know you've still got a lot of stuff that you've
still have a
taken
lot
care
of
of this
stuff.
week.
Yeah, and actually, I want to go all the way back to last Saturday after the show. I'd never been to the horse show, and I didn't make it this year, but somebody over there was kind enough to share me the link to watch Saturday night's horse show. So it was the first time I'd seen it at all. And just a couple things I noticed, then a couple things I read in the press, just real quick to discuss. Having never watched it, and I'm assuming this is how it's been forever, I didn't realize it goes on for 5 hours.
It's
every
forever.
night.
It's very long. It drags out.
I don't know if there's any way to tighten that up, but it would seem like just from an entertainment standpoint, if you get that to like 3, it would fit more with a regular football. So,
there are ways to do it, but it just doesn't get done.
It just goes on. But the other thing I noticed during the evening as we watched through the classes, we had several that only one horse came out.
Right.
So, and I know there's a lot of moving parts behind the scenes. There's been a lot of, and we got to the last class, and the big news that was that the grand champion for the past 3 years somehow didn't make it out to compete this year.
Yeah, but it's a whole big situation.
A lot of politics.
Let me explain the lower number of horses.
Yeah.
Okay, in the championship classes. The early part of the show, you go through a qualifying process. You go through your preliminary classes, which you got the masses coming to those.
Right.
The bulk of your horses are showing there. So if they don't fare well in that class, most of those people do not show back.
Yeah.
If you have a chance to contend for the World Grand Championship, then you're going to bring that horse back. Okay, those horses are brought back, and again, they have to go through the same inspection process that they just went through in the early class. Every class you have to go through the inspection process, which is by the VMOs, which is your USDA officers, veterinary medical officer. Okay, then you have the DQPs, which are a part of the industry inspection process. So you got 2 inspection process. The government is overseeing and looking over the shoulder of the industry, and they're checking every horse at this point because of the friction that's been going on. So they get inspected going in, they get inspected coming out post show.
Right.
So a lot of horses are getting turned down going in, and then a lot of them are getting disqualified and turned down coming out.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what's happening.
I didn't realize till I talked to somebody that actually covered it in the media, is that even if you watch the show and you see them announce the top 3, those top 3 may not end up being the top 3 because they inspect them afterwards, and sometimes
they could be disqualified. A lot of shows do not retie the classes. They go ahead because there's no proof that horse was actually out of compliance. This is a case that could be pending. Now, if that case comes back and 10 years later they find out, I mean, you know how the government works at the speed of smell.
Yeah.
So you've got, and this is no pun intended, a dog and pony show going on in the inspection area.
Right.
And that's where the real show is.
Yeah.
You've got the show of force by the USDA, and then you got the industry trying to do what they're supposed to do. So it puts these competitors in a catch-22. I mean, we've got a great horse, but we don't know what the rules change every day.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
They got them written down, but it's just kind of like they make it up as they go. So it's a mess.
Yeah. So really, I mean, overall, the biggest thing is, and you'll be covering this because you cover the horse industry, is looking forward we got the big lawsuit hanging, and what's
Well,
next year's show look
Well, yeah,
like?
the Federal Register has the new regulations that the USDA put in. There's a
Right.
process they go through rulemaking. That rulemaking goes through a hearing process. Then it's open for public opinion, and then it takes about 6 months. They've gone through all that process this past year, and I think in July, maybe it was June even, or maybe earlier than that. Maybe it was back in May. I don't know. Whenever the process ended, they went ahead and say this is approved. Then it gets published in the Federal Register, which makes it's a legal document and it's a regulation, a federal regulation
Right.
under the USDA. That got done earlier this year. Now the industry has filed, I think, 2 lawsuits. One that combats that specifically, and 2 that has a general lawsuit about the process that they go through. So now you got to have a judge that rules favorably for the industry and hopefully puts a freeze on this regulation until it gets hashed out.
Right.
That's what we're hoping for. But if a judge just does not give us what we want, then we have these rules that eliminates the build-up pads
Right.
and the action device, which most of the time is a chain around
Yeah.
the horse's foot. That takes that away. And it changes the entire show performance horse of the Tennessee Walking Horse, and it turns it into a pleasure horse the way they're classified now, which would no big heavy shoes, no action device that exaggerates the gait.
Right.
So that's what we're up against. It's all in the hands of attorneys and our federal government, and that scares me.
Yeah, if the government's involved, it's never a good thing.
No.
And I know, I mean, people like me, I'm not in the horse show, but we need to realize if we live here that all these small mom and pop businesses all over the city, they rely on this revenue every year from the horse
Well,
show.
Josh,
Yeah.
it's interesting that you bring that up and how it
Yeah.
impacts Bedford County. Well, you
Yeah.
put out an article about the tourist numbers. $28 million brought, I think was the number, or 23, whatever it was.
Yeah, it
We
was a big-
finished, 49th in the state?
49th in the state.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason we're finishing 49th in the state hangs a lot on the Tennessee walking horse industry. And I'm going to
Yeah.
say 75% of that tourism is coming from the celebration and shows throughout the year where you have out of town people coming,
Right.
staying here, spending their money here. That's counted. Okay.
Yeah.
When somebody from out of state or out of town comes through here, I don't know how we know for sure, but those numbers are compiled. 75% of that is from the
It's
horse show.
going to the
industry.
show. Yeah. So if
So
it changes,
you're 23. If that changes, we're down to nothing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and that's a major impact. And he fumbled the
He
ball.
fumbled the ball.
Yes. with a little I tackled him.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
But that's some background information
where we're
on
at.
tourism
Yeah.
in Bedford County.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, moving forward into the week, on Tuesday, the only official government meeting that I went to was the city study session, and a lot of things going on in the city. During the city manager report, it was mentioned that the Riverview District properties are due to close. They gave a date. I don't remember. It may have been this week or next week. We have the 2 pieces of property. One of them we're buying the whole thing. The other one we're up to 3. We are going to own 3/4 of the property. So we just got
Okay.
one.
Was half.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's more than half. So we got one holdout, and they think that's just a having trouble getting a hold of the
And
person issue.
what happens with the other fourth?
We'll get that eventually. So yeah, they said it's just having trouble getting in touch with that person.
Okay.
So,
All
yeah.
right. So it's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress. And then when we have that all, that's where we're putting the big parking area to deal with the all the new traffic that we're hoping to get from Glass Hollow,
Right.
from Grindstone Cowboy, and just generally having more parking off the square right there. So that's good. After that, they had our police chief came up and gave a little talk on the flock camera. He read off some numbers, which we're not going to go into the numbers. You can go back and see that on the video if you want to. Basically, we covered the one arrest. There was the one guy with a stolen car that they
Right.
caught at the Duck River Laundry, and he got arrested. And other than that, they've had a lot of hits, but nothing that turned into arrests or anything really. But a note I got last week while we were talking about it, I just want to discuss really quickly. This came from somebody else in law enforcement in the area that's been in law enforcement for a few decades. He wanted to point out that this particular system, they get what are, I guess you'd call false positives, which are, it's got a database tied to it. And sometimes that database doesn't get updated in time. And you've got a car that may show is stolen or may show that there's somebody wanted for a felony driving that car, and that may not be the case anymore. So he said they got to be really careful with these felony stops because, and I'll just read some of his exact words. He said, "I'd rather let 10 guilty men go free than arrest one innocent man. We have God-given rights that need to be protected and not chiseled away. And before someone says to inconvenience one person in order to arrest a man with a warrant is okay by me," he said, "that might be okay with you until you're the guy that gets inconvenienced." So you could be driving your car that's not stolen, but if it's in the database wrong and they pull it over and they think it is, a felony stop could be, you could be face down on the pavement.
So
with,
this is not a failure in that actual system. It's human error of not getting it updated.
Yeah, of getting it updated. So he
Right.
said we just have to be really careful that, everybody that we pull over, again, you got your presumption of innocence.
Yeah.
You don't accidentally, rough up a guy too bad that, didn't do anything wrong, that he just
So
happened
it
to be
is
in the database.
proceed with
So
caution.
proceed with caution was his point. And I think that's a good point with anything.
Yeah.
So next thing on the agenda was the soccer complex, and they didn't bring out any of the numbers really. We kind of know what they are, which is we need to somehow come up with $2.5 million. But what they did discuss was they're going to ask for a resolution this week from the city council asking for the county to chip in on the soccer complex. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling like that's not going to go over well with the current state of things between the city and the county. So apparently there is an existing, some kind of document memorandum between the city and the school system, because the school system uses some city facilities for some athletic events or whatnot. So they're hoping to kind of piggyback off that and say, hey, maybe you're going to have the schools are going to use these soccer fields, and maybe you could throw us, a few dollars
Are you
here.
kidding?
But
It's a joke.
I'm feeling like with
That's
the
not
current
happening,
situation
Josh.
in the
No.
lawsuit, that's going to go over like a turd in a punch bowl at the, at the church potluck. So I don't feel
Okay,
like,
Josh.
don't feel like it's going to go over well, but we'll see. They're going to send a letter anyway, so we'll wait and see what the county comes back with, or if they even respond at all. Next up on the agenda was we had the piece of property we knew last week that they were going to, someone was asking to acquire. It ends up it was Cooper Steel, and the piece of property immediately adjacent to the Senior Citizen Center. I guess Cooper Steel already wraps around in behind there, and they're expanding, and they need more space for trucks coming in and out off Eagle
All right,
Boulevard.
Steve Jordan. Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
Good morning. He comes
Morning,
up. Where
Steve.
this is back on the horse show stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a question. He says, "Where's
Yeah.
the $28 million from the horse show?" Now, I didn't say there was $28 million coming from the horse show.
No.
I'm saying the majority of the tourism that we get in comes from that, and it comes through tax money. Okay.
Right, yeah, that's people
It's
being in
sales
town,
tax,
sales
and
tax.
our portion of that.
Hotel,
Motel tax, all that. Where does it go? Well, it's divided up.
between the
City and the county gets
Yeah.
it, and he wants to know if it goes to roads. I don't know how much of that goes to roads. I mean, there's certain things that you can use that for, and certain things you
no
cannot.
sales tax on the county side would go to roads because I
No.
know where it is in the budget, and on the city, I honestly don't know. Maybe some of that could trickle onto
The
roads.
state
but-
has a lot to do with where this goes, Josh.
yeah,
So
a lot of that is set by.
I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
So it's not like we have 28 million dropped in here and we can do what we want to with it. There's certain things that we have to reinvest in.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So unfortunately,
So-
I think maybe somewhere a tiny bit through the city budget could end up on a road.
So,
but,
and this is a topic for another day, but Steve
Yeah.
is obviously not happy with our roads. All right.
roads
Okay.
are a whole other issue.
Yeah.
So next up on the agenda was the city council chambers camera system. I guess they've got some complaints. If you ever watch the city council, you got the one camera angle. It's wide
Right.
angle. You see all the council members. You can't really tell who's talking unless you recognize their voices. So they had the IT guy go in and quote him a new camera system.
I see that.
He came in with two options. Option one was $92,000. Didn't seem like the council was real keen on that option. And option two was $6,000, which it was just one of these conference room cameras you just stick in the middle, and it's 360 degree, and it supposedly is supposed to pick out the voice and zoom in on the face.
Boy, that's a.
so.
But I tell you, you could take $6,000, do a lot with it in
Right.
this technology. I mean, it's not outlandish.
Well, and
Like you
somebody
would think.
there at the meeting with me even asked the question, like 92,000, 6,000. Maybe there's like a $25,000 option in the middle somewhere there that you could do that, isn't the full 92, but get you better than that $6,000. So they'll have those two options, plus the other option is they could just leave it like it is with the wide angle camera. And I don't feel like they're wanting to spend a lot of money right now, so I'm feeling like we're probably not going to get one.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but we'll see. Agenda's not out for this month yet. It'll come out probably beginning of the week, so we'll see if they add it on there. Next up was airport leases. They had a little bit of discussion on this. Not all of the council obviously watches the they have the airport committee, which meets, the same day as planning, I believe. And there was a lot more discussion on this. There were two, I think it's one hangar that two people are owning 50-50. It's either one hangar or two. But anyways, the time has come. They're about to finish construction. It's time to sign the long-term lease on this hangar. And what happened was a couple years ago when they started construction, somebody sent them a copy of a lease and said, this is what your lease will look like when construction gets done. The problem was the rules had recently changed, and the copy of the lease that they got was not the copy of the lease that followed the current rules, which the current, what's been passed by the council is it's got a set rate per square foot. But in addition to that, it increases 3% every year, your lease does.
Yeah.
So the copy they got didn't have anything about a 3% increase. So now they built this thing. They're ready to sign a lease. They get a lease from the city, and they're like, hold up. Where'd this 3% increase come from? And the airport committee was like, well, this is what the rules are. And they're like, this isn't what you sent us. So after some back and forth at the committee, they're going to try to get the council to approve it without the increase based on the fact that they sent them a bad lease.
Okay.
And 3% doesn't sound like much, but if you do the math over, these are like 20 or 30-year leases, it actually doubled the lease payment by the end of the lease.
Wow.
So it's a big difference.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. But it looks like they're going to get the older lease just because somebody dropped the ball, and I don't know who it was. They didn't really say, but somebody sent them a bad lease.
It was Elvis.
It could have been.
He fumbled
He
again.
fumbled the ball. So later in the same meeting, we had a little more discussion of that de-annexation request on Jennings Lane. That's the one that's kind of unusual. They annexed into the city. They were going to build a big housing development. The developer didn't get the density he wanted. He pulled out, and now we're going to turn it back into a farm.
And they didn't saw the trees down.
Nope, nobody gets to take the trees down with the saw. So it's all good there.
All right.
And then we had the discussion of the one item that's been back and forth for months now, Barksdale Lane, Whitthorne, and it was brought up, and please, I hope they don't do it, but there was discussion by at least one council member, hey, we don't want to vote no on this. Let's send it back to planning.
No.
This will be the third time.
Just do it.
Or don't do it.
Yeah.
But vote. Yeah, vote. So I don't think they're going to follow that council member's advice and send it back to planning for a third time, where they've already turned it down twice. But there was at least discussion of, hey, let's bounce it back down. So hopefully they actually vote on Thursday.
Ping pong.
Yeah. And then we had the acreage on Morton Street. Same issue. They're wanting to zone it to a higher density than what is currently allowed under the just the general planning regulations for that area. It's in a bad location because it would put townhomes next to some they've already approved, which could then be a visibility and a traffic issue at that intersection there. So that has a unanimous negative recommendation from planning. So it'll be interesting to see if they actually vote on Thursday. Do they ping pong that one back? Do they defer it like they did last month?
Josh, I got a theory. Whenever it starts ping ponging, that means the answer is no, but nobody wants to say it.
Nobody wants to say no, I think, is a lot of it.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it's either that or, I mean, I can't think of a whole lot of other
And the
reasons,
person that's asking for this to be done, they just don't want to tell them no.
They don't want to tell them no.
Yeah, but the answer's no, but we just don't want to say it.
We don't want to say no.
We want somebody else to say it. So.
Well, I mean, they're leaning this Barksdale. If I were to bet right now, they seem to be leaning yes, even though planning said no. So that one's going to be interesting. So, but that was it at the study session. And that was the only meeting I went to this week, but I did have a few other things went on. On Tuesday, we got the stats from the city police that we get every month. This was for August. Calls were down a little bit. Zone 1 and 5, their calls were down. 2, 3, and 4, they were up. And Friday was the busy day of the week, and 6 p.m. to midnight was the busy time of the day. So, which those are pretty standard things. They did not publish for the first time their call response time, but I think that was still around 5 minutes. Instead, they decided to put out 46,916 miles is the number of miles they drove. So that's a lot of miles, especially considering
Yep.
they stay in the city limits.
Yep,
So that's
for
a lot
sure.
of back and forth from one side of the city to the other.
Yes.
So, and then Wednesday, we got, which we talked about this a little earlier already, but we got a press release sent to us from the state Wednesday morning with an embargo saying to hold it till 2 o'clock. And it said that tourism numbers in Bedford County increased 3.4%, which doesn't seem like a very big percentage. But then it also had the state numbers. So the state went up 6% overall in the state. So we're not even keeping up with the state average. So that doesn't seem all that great. We held our position in the state. We're 49th out of 95 counties. But they do a calculation where they try to figure out how much that saves each household in property taxes.
Uh-huh.
And their estimate is that in Bedford County, we save $156 in property taxes, but the state average is $1,161 per household, which says to me that we're not a big
We're not
tourist
tourist.
area.
Well, we're not.
So,
We're
we,
not.
we talked about that. I mean, you got the horse show.
That's it.
Well, you got people come to Nearest Green now.
Right. They're coming
And
through
then-
to go to Lynchburg, and they're stopping here and doing their thing.
And
Yeah.
then you got the big events at Bell Buckle.
Yeah.
So you got the 2 or 3 big things in Bell Buckle a year. And other than that, I don't see a lot of people tourism.
I've
here.
often wondered what's a category of tourism. What does that look like for Bedford County? Is that somebody coming in from Lynchburg to eat dinner one night at a restaurant? Is that somebody from Lewisburg coming over here to our our food line and go doing groceries? I mean, what is that?
I actually read the report. What they base it on, they have two kinds. They have overnight visitors, which those are easy. They come here and spend the night in a hotel or an Airbnb or something. But what they would call their day visitors, which I think is the majority of what we get, is you have to have driven more than 50 miles, come here for whatever event or whatever, and then go back home and stay at your house.
We got
So-
passing through people, and then the horse show.
And then the horse show where people are staying.
That's it.
overnight.
I mean, we
So-
can't expect a whole.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to turn into a big tourism mecca of any kind. I don't know what people are going to come here to see, really. So, I mean, we got plenty of good food and stuff,
Yeah,
but that's not going to bring a lot of people here to spend the night.
We've got
so,
the Duck River, and that was
Yeah.
hot for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, which is running kind of low. We'll get to that in just
Yeah,
a second.
I know.
So, yeah. Thursday, City Police put out a press release just letting people know that the unfortunate case of 16-year-old Maria Lucas Gaspar is still open. They've now put out a $5,000 reward for information. She went missing on June 29th. They found her July 8th next to Old Nashville Dirt Road, and they feel like it's suspicious, but they have not been able to gather enough evidence to decide, exactly what went on. And so they're just asking anybody in the public that may have been, on Old Nashville Dirt Road in that area sometime in that June 29th to July 8th time period, to just let them know if they saw anything out of the ordinary or, even if it's small. I mean, there's a phone number on Facebook where you can call the detective and just say, hey, I was driving through there. I saw this. You may think it's nothing, but to them it may be the tip that takes them in the right direction of what happened. So it's sad, and we just hope that they're able to. And I'm sure the family would like.
Oh yeah,
closure
for
to know
sure.
what happened there.
Yeah,
So
it's a sad situation.
it is. Friday, I went to an event. The Bedford County Listening Project held a press conference on the square. And as far as press, it was me and the guy from Channel 2. So
All right.
Kenley Hargett, I believe his name is. He came. And if you go on the Channel 2 website, he actually did a report. He was on the news last night and did a report on it. They have put out, which I brought a copy of it right here. They've put out a 4-part platform that they are asking the 7 candidates for city council to sign off on. I read through the platform the day before, and I met with them at their press conference, and I told them, although I can't sign their platform as it is written, there are at least some points of discussion that I'm willing to talk about with them. They're going to have a bigger meeting on October 19th, I believe it is, about 2 o'clock, that they're asking for the whole community to come to. A couple of their points that I told them straight up, there's just no way, and I don't think they would pass council anyways. They're asking to level the playing field in court, which they want the city council to provide $250,000 a year for lawyer fees for tenants in housing court. And I told them, I said, that's just a a non-starter. There's no way the city council is going to sign off on
Yeah.
$250,000
Paying
in
attorney
taxpayer
bills.
money for attorneys. We're already paying attorneys for this lawsuit that
Exactly.
we shouldn't be. We don't. Lawyers don't need more money. So
Not for this.
Yeah, not enough lawyers. There is the state offers legal aid for housing issues for people that need it, and that is the direction I would go with that. They also are asking city council, and it doesn't say it on this piece of paper, but on the pledge that I went on the website, they had a pledge. They're asking for funding for affordable housing. And again, we need affordable housing, but we sure don't need the city in the housing business.
Right.
So now we do have the Shelbyville Housing Authority, which is federally funded, and they're actually looking at a big grant right now, I've heard behind the scenes, and they may be doing some expansion there. But I don't think the city needs to be spending city property tax dollars to build. Or now, if a private investor or developer wants to go in and build affordable housing, I think the city should work with them, to
Right.
try to get that done. But we should not be spending tax dollars on any kind of, housing,
Yeah.
affordable or otherwise. The other couple points were fine. Protecting against retaliation. They're basically saying if a tenant goes to codes and their structure is not up to codes, they shouldn't be able to be evicted for just reporting. I think that's fine. I mean, there shouldn't
Yeah.
be, landlords shouldn't be retaliating against
Right.
tenants for calling them out on doing a bad job on the building. So, but that was the press conference. You can find more on the Channel 2 report. And again, October 19th, they'll be having the other meeting. I'll go to that as well. I told them, I was straight up. I'm like, I probably can't sign your platform. I'm not going to agree with a lot of what you do, but that doesn't mean that I won't talk to you because, even if they're on the other side on a lot of issues, there are going to be some places that we could compromise and discuss. And, you can't just because somebody's on the other side of the aisle, you don't say, I'm not going to talk to you and, walk
Right.
away in a huff or whatever.
Right.
So,
Try to
yeah.
find some common ground.
Find
where
some
you
common
can.
ground and get some communication going. So, and then finally on Friday, we had kind of late on a Friday afternoon, and I don't want to imply this was done on purpose, but that Friday afternoon is where you release
Yeah.
a news story so it
Yes.
will die.
So
That's-
nobody can see it.
so nobody notices it. But and that's probably not what happened here. This may just be when it got ready. But whatever. Our two biggest utilities in the county put out releases asking for voluntary water conservation, both Shelbyville Power and BCUD, because a portion of the Duck River watershed is in extreme drought right now. So it's not exactly where we're at, but if you go downriver, they're wet. They're in.
Yeah.
It's called, I think it's level 3, which is where it's a danger to wildlife and stuff. That's how bad it is down there. So we've talked about water, extensively here on the show, and this is just another sign that we got to be careful how
Yeah.
much we let get built on the Duck River, because at some point it's not a limitless supply.
Yeah, you're looking
So-
at a 3-week or 4-week time period with small amounts of rain, and we're in trouble.
Right. And now they're telling you, please don't water your lawn, don't wash your cars, don't
No
fill
car
your
washing.
pool, no car wash. They said commercial car washes are okay, just don't wash in your driveway. So, yeah. And these are voluntary right now. None of this is, you go to some states and they have I think my
How
brother
do they
lives in,
enforce that?
I don't know.
Turn your water off?
My brother lives in Texas, and they have the deal where when they get into bad spots, there's like a day of the week that you're allowed to water your lawn. If you do it outside that day of the week, I don't know if it's
How do
like
they check it out?
codes go out, or
Oh, really?
is there like a
Drones everywhere?
well, or if your neighbor reports you, does he get like a little bonus or
That's
something
it.
for? They may have the system.
Tell
where
on everybody.
Yeah, tell on everybody.
Tattletales.
Maybe the tattle system. I'm not sure. But that does happen in a lot of states. We're not to that point yet, but it's just, one of those things we need to be careful. So water is not limitless. It looks like a river. It's flowing. There's a lot of water in there, but we're using a lot too. So,
Yeah, we're sucking it dry.
yeah, we are. So, but that was it. Like we said at the beginning of the show, not a crazy busy week. A few things went on there, a few things we thought worth discussing. Next week, a lot busier. But before we get into that, let's hear from our sponsor one more time, and then we'll talk about what's on the agenda for next week.
With the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
Welcome back to the weekend wrap up. Thanks again to our sponsor, Dennis Young Insurance. Josh, what's coming up this week?
This week, a little busier than the past week. Tuesday, 5 o'clock at the Fly Art Center, we have a business expo put on by the Chamber of Commerce, 5 to 8. And supposedly there's going to be a lot of businesses with booths set up. So if you're looking to support and buy local, maybe go out there and check them out and see what we have to offer here in the county. Same night, 7 o'clock, County Commission meeting. If you look at that agenda, I'm going to say this meeting could be done in less than 5 minutes. Possibly less than 5 minutes. There is literally no business item on this agenda. They're going to vote to approve last month's minutes,
Right.
and then they have to approve the notaries for the month.
And there's nothing else going on in
There's
Bedford
no
County.
resolution. There's no report. There's no nothing. They really could defer this whole meeting to next
Nothing to
month,
argue about.
because unless somebody brings something up on the floor, there's nothing on the agenda. So we'll see. Things come out of left field sometimes, but in this case, there's nothing on the agenda.
Yep.
So now, on the other hand, Thursday night, City Council, 6 o'clock, they have not published their agenda, but there will be quite a bit on that. Some of the stuff we discussed about from the study session will be there, including a lot of these rezoning votes, this airport lease, the resolution to ask the county to give them money for a soccer complex, all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah.
So a lot going on at the city level on Thursday night. And then next Saturday, event I went to last month, and I'm probably going to go to this month, starting in the morning, the VFW has their breakfast at 7, but then on the square from 10 to 2, we've got this big Veterans Job and Resource Fair. And there's supposed to be a lot going on there for veterans this next weekend. So I'd say that'd be both good events to go to next Saturday.
Yeah.
And I know currently, actually, starting at 11, about 30 minutes, we've got the event this weekend. On the
hot
square.
rods and health fair.
Rods and the health fair. And there's some, I think there's some
NFL
veterans
players
coming out.
Some
and
Titans,
things.
former
So,
Titans players will be up there.
yeah, so if you're still watching us and it's still Saturday morning, go out to the square today and go see some cars and hang out. So, and the weather's great.
Oh,
So,
man, it's cooled off.
it's finally
down in the 40s tonight.
Finally,
upper 40s.
pumpkin spice latte
Yeah.
weather. So yeah,
Is that what you got
no,
this morning?
I didn't get that with this.
What'd you
morning,
get this
so.
morning?
This is still my creme brulee brevet. So it's it's good
Fancy.
stuff.
Fancy.
It's fancy. It's very fancy.
I've just got my crystal coffee.
Crystal coffee. You can't go wrong
Yeah,
with crystal
no.
coffee. So, all right. But that's it for this week. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back here, same time, same channel, same place next week with the news that matters here in Shelbyville.